Agile is really an umbrella term for a software development methodology that was developed, I want to say 20, 25 years ago. And what it means, it really means incremental or iterative development. And when you hear Agile, what you should be thinking about is continuous planning, continuous development, continuous testing, and continuous integration of a project. And so there's no real reason, and it's intended to be a lightweight practice. So you don't have intensive meetings about how you're designing things. You don't have a lot of prescriptive specifications. And so it works well in the software world for certain types of applications. There are other applications where you do have very rigid specifications where Agile might not be the best practice, but for the kinds of things that I'm teaching, it works really well. But the idea is the way we run it is, and anybody can learn, and there are a lot of different frameworks for using Agile, and we use a particular one where the development cycles are built up into sort of 2-week, what they call sprints. So you have to have something built in 2 weeks that you can demonstrate. So a piece of the project has to be working in 2 weeks. Now, obviously, the project as a whole is a very complicated thing. It cannot all be working in 2 weeks, but they have to figure out what can we get working in 2 weeks. And then in 4 weeks, we've got to have more of it working in 6 weeks. And in a normal semester that we would have about 5 sprints, because we don't get to the group formation and everything until about week 4, week 5 of the semester. Then we break the class up, and at that point, once we break up into groups and we start our Agile process, every class meeting, I'm sorry, has a group Agile process as part of it. And most of these are just these little lightweight 15-minute check-in meetings. And the groups get together in breakout rooms, and basically they're supposed to check in with each other. And the basic paradigm is they go and they say, each person goes around and says, well, this is what I worked on the project since the last time that we met. This is what I'm intending to do before we meet again. This is what I'm working on, and these are the roadblocks that I think I have. Okay, so these are obstacles in my path to getting to where we need to be. And everybody has to do that, and we don't interfere in that process. You know, we're not part of that meeting at that stage. And so the students are very savvy. They obviously are going to detect when someone is not pulling their fair share of the load or whatnot, and that is when we might get involved later on. But at every 2 weeks, they have to have a piece of the project done, and part of that project is documenting what they've done, making a deliverable that they turn in for a grade. And that's graded according to a rubric that we publish, and they know what they have to turn in. And so it's since it's a software project, we download their code, we execute their code, we make sure that it does what they're saying it does, and we look at their documentation. So part of it is documenting what they've done. And obviously there's more to it than that, a little bit more to it in terms of how they organize their project. That's part of what we assess, and how they're chunking off pieces of their project and figuring out what they're going to do on this iterative process. And I'm going to put in the chat a book that's called Agile Faculty, and it's written by I think a humanist who adopted Agile methods in her research. And so it is, I think, a good introduction to it for the non-computer scientist. And I like the book. I've read it and I like it. I think it's a very good general introduction to agile methods, and it doesn't get you bogged down into all the the software details. Obviously, as we're kind of nerdy people, we go overboard with agile, but this is a way to do it. And if you've ever seen pictures of people doing meetings where they have tons of post-it notes on the board, they're thinking agile. That's what agile is, really, where they have tons of post-it notes.